Welcome into a special Thursday morning edition of the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He is Gordon. Like and subscribe to the FloTrack podcast YouTube page. Thanks to those of you who are watching live or catching us on audio later on. We're going to recap the Lievin World Indoor Tour meet, which started just hours, actually just minutes pretty much after we got done recording our last pod. We made some predictions, Gordon. Some of them were right. Some of them were wrong. All of them pretty much were vague. Did you enjoy the meet?
I did. You came over to my house. We had a nice little watch party in my home. I appreciate your company. It was fun watching the races go by. We kind of were looking at that meet as being like the cream of the crop, the creme brulee. Is that the phrase? Creme brulee?
Creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme. Creme de la creme. But it kind of wasn't. I think we're kind of searching for the cream. We're kind of like, we want to have these incredible moments. So now we get really excited because, we're going to see Jakob and Mondo and Karsten Warholm and Grant Holloway, that we're going to get all this amazingness. We did get some. Don't get me wrong. Got a world record. Boom. Nice. But, Mondo pulled out after like 6 meters. Karsten was just kind of jogging a 400. Jakob came short of his, fast time. But it does get me more excited that, like, all right, we're starting to get moving here. We're now seeing some more stars on the track. Sometimes it's a slow build before we actually get into real track season. Indoor is kind of like a false, I was going to say something different, false something else, but it's kind of like
it's a soft launch.
Soft launch, yeah, sure. Because, Fred Curley is going to run an outdoor 200 in like a week. And, we're going to start seeing more of the stars and get excited. But I'm kind of downplaying the meet. We had a world record, and the world record was phenomenal. Steeplechaser coming out hot and getting the victory. 7:23. Mo Katir also breaking the old world record, coming in second, running 7:24. And I think what was great about this world record attempt is that there was 2 people in it the entire time. We weren't just watching a man versus the clock. We were actually watching a legitimate race, and it was more about who was going to win, not necessarily whether or not they're going to beat the record time.
Yeah, and we knew, looking at the pace projections with 3 laps to go, that the record was probably going to go. So it was a race for the win, but also a race for the world record, which is very rare. You rarely see that. You're right. Usually it is a man or a woman out there alone, chugging along. There's a rabbit for a portion of it, but then the final lap or laps, it's a longer distance. It's just, will they get the record or won't they? This was, who is going to get the record? Is it going to be Girma? Is it going to be Katir? Girma was in the lead, though, and I thought Katir could sit and then make one final move. So credit to Girma for making the push from a long way out and holding on. I thought Katir might have one final move coming around the final 100, but he didn't. Girma was right there, and this is a record, Gordon. This 25 years old. This is the second year he's one of these Ethiopian steepler. Hey, you hasten to call him a steepler now because he's the flat 3,000 world record holder. Just an amazing distance runner all around, but we know him more as a steepler. Last year it was Wale who almost got the record in this meet. Now it's Girma. It's very clear Ethiopia is putting their top talent into the steeple. They're putting their best runners into the steeple right now, partially because they just have an abundance of talent across the board, so they could still put really good runners in the 5 and the 10, but he'd be great in the 5, obviously, as well. This meet, I like that it's getting this reputation as this fast, star-studded event. I think it's cool because every single event we were looking for, okay, can they break this mark? Can they break that mark? And Girma debuts of the world record. First race of 2023. Incredible.
Yeah, kind of putting to bed like, Rust Buster.
Rust Busters are dead, right?
Yeah.
Just as a few years ago, indoor is always slower than outdoor. That was dead. Now, in some cases, that's true, but BU proved that to be dead. I think the whole rust buster thing is dead too. Germa proved it. Bowerman in the past has proved it. They'll just show up, indoor or outdoor, first one. Oh, American record. Oh, Canadian record. Like, some athletes are able to get going right away, and they just do enough speed work in practice, or they simulate the race enough. So when they get out there, it's like it's mid-season, or it's like it's championship season already.
So this race also was the season debut of Grant Fisher. We got to see the other American that we look to as kind of the top dog right now. Obviously, he ran pretty well
Yeah.
last year, broke a bunch of American records. Yar Naguse and Woody Kincaid have been kind of taking a little bit of the headlines with their recent races. So we're kind of excited to see how Grant Fisher would respond to those two athletes' performances. And he runs 7:35, which turns out is a PB, which was weird. I was like, okay, PB. But when you run 7:35 in a 7:20 race, it's not going to look too fast. What were your thoughts on Fisher? We probably thought that maybe he would run in the 7:20s, especially seeing what Yard did, weeks prior. What was your reaction to Fisher kind of most likely falling short of what he thought he was going to be able to do?
Yeah, I watched the interview with him after. He wanted to run quicker. You go all the way over there and get in this race because you think you're capable of more. And the pace was just too much for him. Maybe if it was set up to be 7:32, 7:33, and then he could have kicked off that, it would have been different. But it was hotter than that. It was much quicker than that. He wasn't ready to go at that pace. I think it's interesting. We ended last year, Fisher the clear number one, and you don't want to overreact too much to indoors. But what's happened since then? You have Kincaid dropping that 5,000 meter time, breaking the American record. Naguse running 7:28. Now, Naguse is probably not going to run the 5,000 outdoors.
No.
We assume he's going to focus on the 1,500. So that's not a problem he's going to have to deal with. But as of right now, you have two performances clearly that are better than what Fisher ran. I also think it's a credit to him. The expectation is we thought he should be in this race. We were surprised when he fell off with 3 laps to go or 4 laps, whatever it was, and a gap emerged. Oh, that's weird. Because whether it was Diamond Leagues, whether it was World Championships, what did Fisher do? He stuck around, he stuck around, he stuck around, and it wasn't until the very end when he finally lost contact. So this was rare to see Fisher drop off this early. And I think it just goes to show how much the expectations have changed around him in the past year and a half.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he's done all the American recording. I mean, he had what, 4 last year? 3? 4? How many American records
4.
did he have last year? 4.
It was 4, right?
4 last year. So the next thing that he wants to do is get this first global medal. And, running in this race and running well in this race is a good way to see if he's ready for that next that first global medal. But it didn't happen. It is indoor. It is a weird, this is kind of a weird combination. Like, is Katir going to be running the 5K? Probably not. He'll be running 15. He's a 1500 meter guy.
Run the steeple. You have a steepler who wins it. Yeah, so
looking at this, he got third. He got third in this race, which is good enough for a medal.
Yeah, I know we just got done saying rust busters don't matter, but I think you could say for some people, sometimes it matters. It didn't matter last year for him when he opened in BU and ran really fast, but that doesn't mean it's never going to matter. And he's going to run a 1,500 in Madrid, short distance for him, but we'll see how he responds. But credit to him for putting himself in it, going out there to run that race with the best guys in the world right now, and came up short of his goal. But you could see a scenario. Fisher's so good at this point. If he broke Naguse's record, nobody was going to be surprised. And if he was right there with Germa and Katir, I don't think anybody would have been stunned by that based on what we've seen from Fisher and his propensity to churn out these fast times. But yeah, good run. Good race altogether, I think. Let's stay men's distance. Men's 1,500. Jakob Ingebrigtsen gets the win. It wasn't close. ended up being almost a 3-second margin at the end. They were touting this as world record for him. With the pace lights, you know pretty quickly, okay, it's on, but then you also know really quickly when it's off because it's hard to catch the lights. Once the lights open up that gap, they're very tough to reel back in. We know that Jakob missed some training because he was sick, so he doesn't get the world record, but still a dominant victory for him. He's another guy who gets graded on the curve, and you're just thinking, all right, is he going to break the world record or is he not? But 332 indoors is still pretty quick, especially when you don't have any competition on the back half.
Yeah. It's funny you said that. It's hard to catch the lights. It sounds like a line from like the weekend lyrics. You know, blinded by yeah, anyway. Um,
Thank you. Appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah. His whole like being sick kind of put a little dull in his potential. And at the end of the day, you know, it was kind of what I mean. What was your thought on his mark compared to what happened at Milrose Games? Like it's kind of
Well,
weird to like look at. It's kind of weird seeing Jakob Ingebrigtsen run slower than what Yard did, right?
yeah, different type of race though. You can just I know Yard opened up a big gap late in that race, but I still think he had more competition, a little bit more help than Jakob did. If these guys were
Yeah.
running right now against each other, one on one, fresh in 5 days, you might take Nagoose, right? Because the 332 is not as good as the 347. But
But
in the summer, in a couple months, you're still going with Ingebrigtsen. You're still going with Ingebrigtsen because he still dominated this race, and he's the 5,000 meter champion. He's silver medalist in the 1500. He still has the world record in the 1500. But maybe for this small, tiny snapshot in time right now, Nagoose is better. But this was not a bad result for Ingebrigtsen by any stretch of the imagination, right? Winning by that much, still running that fast, he's fine. There is no need to panic about Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
you just said you might take Nagoose right now.
Like this week,
Who is you in this situation? Is it you? You? Is it me? Is it you as in the people listening? Who is the you who is taking Nagoose over Jakob right now?
yeah, I would. This
You would?
like, well, I'm saying the Milrose run was better than the Lievin run, right? Put them on the same track
Yeah.
together. Maybe you would give a Nagoose a slight edge for this week. But in a month, in 2 months, in 6 months, when the World Championships are, Ingebrigtsen is still the favorite. We're not looking at a guy who ran 342. He ran 332. He won by 3 seconds. He's fine. Nagoose was great. Jakob has proven in championship settings he'll be fine. I'm not that concerned about him.
Wow. Kevin Sully already believing in Jakob
Ingebrigtsen?
never winning again.
Oh, that was you. That was literally your take. Jakob's never going to win again, right?
No, that was your take.
Oh no,
I said he was
your
never
take
going to
was
lose.
never going to lose, never going to lose. Well, that lasted a
Well, you
summer
just
because were you at the World Championships? He lost. No, I think he's going to be fine. He's still the favorite. He's still the favorite. I believe that he missed time because of training due to sickness. If he's not sick, maybe he gets his world record again. Maybe he runs a second faster, whatever. But yeah, 347 is better than 332. No one's discounting that. But he was close enough to where I think he'll be fine. Are you worried about him?
absolutely not.
Okay. And what
He
are we
could have
arguing
ran
about?
4 seconds slower, and I still wouldn't be worried.
If you lost,
He could have lost, and I wouldn't have been worried.
all right. Gordon, not worried about Ingebrigtsen. Love it.
Nope.
Love it. Love
I
it.
sleep peacefully at night, knowing that Ingebrigtsen is fine.
Another record attempt, women's 1500. This thing got fast in a hurry. They had the live finish time projections on the screen, and Gudov's the guy, I think the fastest she reached was it 342? Projected finish time for her.
I would have been fast.
That would have been a world record. That would have been noteworthy.
That would have
Sub
been
4
noteworthy.
equivalent. Yeah, she ends up finishing in 3:57, which is still good. Sub 4 for 15 indoors, pretty good, but off of her world record of 3:53. So consecutive weeks where she's gone after, or consecutive meets where she's gone after the world record, Sagai, and come up short. Do you think this type, we've seen this before, namely Gonzebe Dababa did this. Do you think this is fun for athletes, or is this exhausting for them just to sign up for these time trials where they know it's going to be them versus the clock?
Um, I think it's exhausting because the joy of winning is taken away. Like they don't have the joy of winning because they know they're gonna win. So there's not like that dopamine is gone. You now just know that there is a chance, a small percentage chance you're gonna get what you want, but you know likely by 25% into the race, it's probably not gonna happen. So now she had to do the final 75% of a race running hard, knowing you're not going to get what you want, and not really having the joy of winning because like, well, I was going to win this race no matter what. So yeah, I think it's exhausting. I don't think it's fun to chase a record and come up short, because no one is going to be talking about, whoa, nice win. It's all like, oh, all right, 3:57, do it again.
Yeah.
Until you get to your 3:53. Yeah.
And it's her record too. So even if she got
Yeah.
it, she's keeping something that she already has. The flip side of that, say she just runs with the pack for the first 800 and then just takes off and runs 3:57 and wins by a huge margin. What we'd be talking about today was, oh my gosh, that final 400 split was just crazy, or that final 600 split, right? And it would have been probably way more fun for her to run that way than to go for this record. I mean, maybe there was something in her training that indicated not she could run 3:42, because that'd be some kind of training, but maybe she thought she was capable of beating the record by a second or two, which is why she went out so aggressively. Because with the lights and with pacers, people have been staying more on pace in these record attempts than normal, which makes sense because you have a lot of help to do it. You have a lot of redundancies, but yeah, when those times popped up, it definitely was surprising how quick she was going. And I think she's going for more records. I think she's going for the 1K next, which she doesn't have. So at least that'll be. She should have run the 2,000 here. That's what she should have tried to do. Get that 2,000 record.
Everyone wants a 2,000 meter record. I probably could get a 2,000 meter record.
Get super, super off distance there. Women's 8. Keely Hodgkinson wins again. Runs 157.71. That's a world lead. That's the second fastest time of her career. Mary Mora, second place, 2:00.61. So another race with a large margin of victory where the favorite took home the win. But Hodgkinson now 3 for 3 indoors. All these have been great efforts for her. Can't really find any flaws in anything she's doing right now.
No, you can't find any flaws. I think the big question you have is, like, are these back-to-back 157s? It's a resume she's putting together this indoor season, a resume that you think is a resume that can defeat a Thingmo. Like, is she gonna get the job? Like, say she's applying for the job of gold medal winner, right? Yeah. There's two applicants. They're both getting a sit-down interview. They made it to the interview process. It's the final interview. The interview is being held in Budapest, Hungary. They got two different resumes. Keely's going to come to the interview and be like, hey, this is what I did. I was in Lievin. I ran 157. I was in Poland. I ran 157. Did you run 157 in Poland? I think it was Poland. I don't know.
She ran 157.
Yeah. But anyway, do you think her resume is going to stack up where she'll be selected as gold medal winner? Because we know track and field is scripted. They decide who's going to win. Zebco goes in and be like, all right, this is what I want. I want there to be a rivalry. We need a thing to win the first few, and then Keely's going to have a great indoor season. The thing's going to lay low, and then they're going to clash again in Budapest. I mean, I don't know. I think 157 is great. I think I probably would have been more. The expectation to beat a Thing Mo is really high or hard.
Yeah.
It's a high level to get to. And while 157 is good, it shows that no one else besides a Thing Mo can beat her. But I'm not sure yet if this is showing that she can beat a Thing Mo. It's showing that she has 98% chance of finishing top 2 at Worlds, but still a unknown chance of finishing number 1.
She ran faster last year. So if you're just looking at it as, all right, is she faster this year than she was last year? She hasn't done that yet. Then again, she's not getting pushed.
Yeah, just by herself.
Well, she didn't get pushed. She had someone to chase in the last race. But this one, she was way out by herself. The 600 was a record attempt, and it was fast and it was quick. So I do think what it is doing is just building consistency. Just stacking these 157s on top of each other, and then another really strong 600. And if she runs Europeans, she's gonna have I'm assuming if she runs 157 there, that'd be pretty impressive through rounds. But my point is, she's just raising the floor of what she's capable of. She's not dropping a 155 indoors and getting the world record, which would really shake things up. But she's at least just putting good performance on top of good performance. And I think remember how young both these women are. So that consistency, you can't take it for granted. And she's just proving. If she was running 157s over and over again outdoors, we'd say that's solid. And she's doing it indoors. So I think it is something. Again, it's not the big, clear, loud statement run. Oh, she's going to run 155.8 indoors. But it's just building up these small little performances that maybe we'll look back later on in the year and say, hey, the reason she's doing so good indoors, like that started indoors. The success she's having outdoors, that started indoors.
Well, we will see. She's going to run Euros, you said?
I think that's the question to every European athlete, right? After every meet this winter. Are you running Euros?
And then they would always be like, how does this race set you up for Paris 2024? That was a fun little question they asked all. Are you excited to come back here for the Olympics in a year and a half?
Yeah. All right, let's talk about this men's 60. Let's go to the sprints side of things. Ferdinand Omanyala PRs, breaks his own Kenyan record, 6:54. And to do it, he beat Lamont Marcel Jacobs, who's a really good 60-meter runner, Olympic champion in the 100, who ran 6.57. More surprised for the Jacobs loss, or more surprised that Omanyala got the win?
Well, first thing I was very impressed with the photo finish. Omanyala took the photo finish seriously and turned it into a selfie finish where he was looking at the camera, tongue out. You never see, most photo finish camera shots are, weird. They're like distorted. It's like, all right, but this one, you can make that a profile pic. Like that's profile pic worthy. No, but yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if beating Jacobs, obviously he's an Olympic champion. He's a world indoor champion from last year, but he's not beating a 6'4",
right?
Type guy right now. He beat a 6'5". Like Marcel looked really slow off the blocks. Looked really slow out of the blocks. The winning time is 6:54. I mean, we're seeing Rommel run 6:42s. So I don't think it is like, wow, you just beat the best guy in the world. Watch out for Ferdinand. I do think Ferdinand is now the past 2 or 3 years has kind of cemented himself as like, I will make every world final and I will be in it potentially to, flirt with the bronze if things go his way. But, it definitely just showed that, he was kind of came onto the spotlight, in 2020 was the year he came in the spotlight? And he's been able to not be a flash in the pan. He's been able to stay consistent. And I think beating Marcel Jacobs here, showing that consistency. And I look to him as, a lock for making a final, which is hard to do. The men's 100 is a hard final to make. And it's kind of interesting when a man from Kenya, known for all their distance, is going to have a consistent presence in the 100-meter dash, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah,
Jacobs, my reaction to that is he's definitely not in his peak form, but he's not dead. He's not dying. But 6:57, I mean, a lot of college kids are running that. He's definitely not 100% fit or in his peak.
yeah.
Especially when you see a 200-meter runner and Lyles run 6.5s.
Mm-hmm.
You see Rommel do his thing. Christian Coleman just was like, all right, I can win whenever I want. There's a lot of the Americans. I don't think Marcel Jacobs has a big hill to climb to get back into breaking up the U.S. runners and some of the Jamaicans, in my opinion. That hill just got a little steeper after watching this race.
When you look at the 100, though, these are two of the top candidates to break up the U.S. sweep. Right? Like the list
and
is not
Jamaicans.
that.
Seville.
Listen, I mean, I'm a big Seville guy.
Me too. Big Seville guy here as well.
I'll be the first one celebrating when he gets that medal. But Omanyala and Jacobs would be in the top 5 of candidates to break up the U.S. sweep. The rest of the world just does not have that many folks who could get into the low 9.8s, high 9.7s, right? So if you're talking about Curley, Coleman, Rommel, they all have that same PB. If any one of them runs near that, that should be enough. Omanyala, Jacobs, Grass, you're right, Seville, but it's a short list right now. The U.S. has 4 or 5 guys, I think, still in that top 10, wouldn't you say? If you're making the top 10 100 guys right now, you'd have the 3 medalists from last year. I think you'd have to include Lyles at this point too, right? Just because of his indoor exploits and the 1971. And then you might even throw in another. You'd probably throw in Coleman too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there would be at least 5 U.S. guys in the top 10, wouldn't there be? Or am I missing something?
I think there's 6. I bet you Williams will also be in there as well. Yeah. So the rest of the world loves the U.S. champs because it eliminates competition, pushes them up the leaderboard.
Yeah. In the chat, Andre says, don't forget Tobogo for this season. 9.91 last season. Showboating, I think, can get close to 9.8. Yeah. And he's young, too. So he'd be on that short list yet. I don't know if I'd have him in the top 10 right now, but I think he has the potential to get in there. But my point is, if Jacobs isn't going to be a medal contender, the chances of that U.S. sweep just increases. And then you kind of go through the list. Just the amount of depth in the rest of the world to compete with the U.S. hasn't materialized yet.
I kind of wanted to make a bold prediction.
Go ahead.
Should I do it?
Yeah.
I don't think Jacobs makes the final.
Now we'll see outdoor. I want to see outdoors.
Kind of early to make that prediction off of
it's way too early.
Couple indoor races. I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably regret that being out in the world, but I'm kind of feeling that vibe. I mean, he looked really slow out of the blocks, man. He is a bigger guy, so the 60 is probably not his cup of tea, but he ran so well in the 60 last year. So it's not like the 60 is completely foreign to him. He was world indoor champion in the 60, beat Coleman in the 60.
Yeah.
But watch him get out of the blocks here. Just watch. It's just like night and day comparing Omanyala on the left and Marcel Jacobs on the right. We'll see if they show. Yeah. So also Marcel Jacobs taking forever to put his head down. Love it. That's
a pro move.
Does.
That's a gold medalist move.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But I can see it there. But I don't know. It's just
Well, to me, it was more
couldn't
the
tell from
back
that
half.
angle. Yeah.
To me, it was more the back half. He didn't run down Omanyala. So he ran in loads in Poland February 4th. He ran a 661 and a 657 in the final. So he's done two 657s back to back. You're right about last season, how fast he was winning World Indoors, running 641. The problem is then he got hurt outdoors or shortly after indoors. And then we never knew like what that type of indoor shape would mean for him outdoors because when he came back, he was running 999 and then a bunch of 10-second hundreds, and then came back for Europeans and then ran 995 at the end. If he's 995 shape or close to it, I think he'll be fine at Worlds. He doesn't need to get back to 980 to get into a final, obviously.
I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a good year for the 100. I just got that feeling, man. I think
Mr. Runner
there's going to be a
1892
lot of
says Italy is
non-Americans
about to
serving.
make a diss track on Gordon.
That'd be great. I wouldn't mind that.
I don't know if
Uh,
the Italian listeners is as
yeah, I don't think our
high as
Italian
the
fan base is big.
yeah,
I
not a
just
big
think
number.
that you talked about this. Not that many people who can break up the American sweep. I think there actually are a lot of people. We just don't know who they are yet. And I think they are, a season away from breaking through. And I think this is their season of breaking through. So we'll see.
Maybe, and again, it's so early. So
Yeah.
that's why I would not make the Jacobs pick that you made. I would wait to see what he does outdoors first, especially if you're talking about making a final. We're not talking about medaling. We're not talking about gold. We're talking about just simply making a final. And the reality is there'll only be 4 Americans in there. So even if the American team is really strong, like we expect them to be, there's going to be several other spots there. I think Seville will be in the
You know,
mid. I think it's a question of the young guys, though. I think it's a question of Seville, Akeem Blake, Tobogo, guys like
yeah.
that. I
Mhm.
think are solid candidates too.
I'm going to stand by this. This is going to be my thing I ride and die on. Hopefully it
Mm-hmm.
comes true.
All right,
That
let's do one
and
more.
200-meter prediction, which is a much funner prediction.
Let's go to the men's 60 hurdles. Grant Holloway, 7.39. Daniel Roberts, pretty close behind, though. We're all used to just our eyes get locked on Grant Holloway in a 60 hurdle race, and we focus on him. But by the end, Roberts was not too far behind. Season's best for him, 7:43. But Grant rolled, had a great celebration after the prelim when he jumped over the barrier and smiled. It just sub 740s pretty straightforward for Grant. Hasn't lost this race since 2014. Don't know if he'll get near world record Grant this indoor season or if that's even a priority for him. But he just shuts things down pretty in terms of the competition pretty early. That was the prelim we just showed, those of you who were watching.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this in the final for Grant where we knew right away it wasn't like fast because it was people near him.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, because we know how good he is that like Grant, no one else is going to run as fast as Grant does right now because he's especially in the 60 hurdles. So if someone's close to him, we know it's going to be kind of not a dud of a race, but not as fast of a race that we know Grant can perform because he's a world record holder. So when we saw this race and we saw Roberts near him, we're like, oh, there was a guy near him, so it's just going to be a normal win, not a record breaking win. But yeah, Roberts ran well. As much as Grant is the king of it of the hurdles, there are still a lot of really good athletes who are nipping at his tail. Now, they don't really have much to nip because Grant is so good and he keeps on moving around and swiftly hurtling away from all the nips. But if Roberts catches fire or Cunningham or who's the Jamaican guy? God dang it.
Broadbell.
I forget his name. Broadbell. Devin Allen, who recently
Parchment.
Devin Allen, who got signed again to the Eagles for next year. He signed a futures contract. Breaking news. So he's still a football player. Grant's going to have to falter for him to lose, but there are a lot of people who could take advantage of that. But the question is, will Grant ever falter again?
If this was a 110 hurdle race and Roberts was that close going off 60, you'd like Roberts' chances. Now, it wasn't.
Yeah, but
that wasn't the race.
If grandma had wheels, she'd be a bike.
Right.
It wasn't a 110 race. It was a 60.
Yeah, but he was close. The formula for Grant is the huge margin early, or the formula that has worked for Grant, the huge margin early, and then he holds on over those last couple of hurdles. Maybe he'll change that up. Maybe he'll address that, and then you'd think the world record outdoors is going to be gone. Like, you look at his 60-meter hurdle time, and you think, all right, if he can get better at closing, which is not easy to do, but not only could he break the world record outdoors, I feel as if he could smash it. Like, he could go low 12.7s if everything clicked. But again, everybody has weaknesses. So if you're just saying, hey, if this person fixed all their weaknesses, they'd be a lot better, you're not exactly saying anything revelatory. But it is like the fact that he is so good out of the blocks and the 60 hurdle world record is so fast. If those last 2 or 3 hurdles start clicking for him, watch out outdoors.
So
anything else to believe in? Femke Bol won the 400, 50 point. Carson won the 400, 45. Wasn't a season's best for either of those athletes, but it was cool seeing 400-meter hurdlers run the quarter indoors. They don't have an event to run, so they're running the flat 400. They're like, this is easy. There's no hurdles in the way. This is fun. I could do this.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to get excited about. I mean, Clarkson did not run it. I mean, he ran slower than what he ran prior, so we're kind of like, all right. Carson's kind of just chilling. He's healthy, though. That's a good sign. Healthy, which was what we want. I know you're very bummed about the 400-meter hurdles. Did this performance make you feel any bit better about Dos Santos' injury, or are you still kind of recovering from that heartbreak?
Well, they said it was going to be 8 to 12 weeks recovery for Dos Santos, so it's not out of the question. Earlier reports had said he's gone, or people assumed it was it for the year. But 8 to 12 weeks, we still have 6 months till the World Championships. Problem is, if Warholm's feeling good and Benjamin's feeling good, it's going to be tough for him to make up that gap. But if all 3 of them can be on the line, somewhat healthy, if Dos Santos can be healthier than Warholm was last year, it's a step in the right direction. And then 2024 will be the year when all of them are healthy at the exact same time. No injuries, knock on wood.
Want to talk a little bit about NCAAs?
Sure.
The newest rankings dropped earlier this week. And we have a new number 1 and a new number 2 on the men's side.
Oh.
Arkansas men now with the heavy lead in the FloTrack rankings, projected to score 60 points to Washington with 39. That's right, the Myler 3K, 5K DMRU of Washington. Georgia dropped down to 3, Texas in 4, Northern Arizona 5, Stanford 6, Florida moving up to 7. But the big change here is Arkansas is showing that they have a lot of talent all over the track, from the multis, the sprints. They got a little bit of distance, and then they got the field events. So they're going to be able to score 5 to 10 points in multiple events that adds up to 60. And Washington is on the back of their milers. And Georgia dropped because Matthew Bowling kind of been a little quiet. Aren't you a little surprised how quiet Bowling's kind of been with his performances this year?
No, I'm not surprised. Maybe laying low, staying fresh. The Washington thing I wonder about, because I think the distance projections are a lot more fickle than
Yeah, for sure.
the sprint and hurdle projections, because it just matters what race you get into.
For
So,
sure. But I moved Joe Wascom back to number 1 in the mile.
all right.
I put
What's the
Washington going 1, 3, 5 in the mile. I have them getting 8th in the 3K. I have them getting 3rd in the 5K. So I have them just scoring points all over the place. I think the event that let's look at the 60. I always like looking at the 60. So men's 60 on the sprint side.
that's my event this year.
So what are your thoughts on my updated 60 rankings?
Yeah, Williams, Ashe, Kone, Maswanganyi, Johnson, Lindsay, Sterling, Warner, Savage of Louisville, and then Udodi on Wazarike of Stanford. Yeah, Williams still up there in the top spot. Warner Savage wasn't in the last set of rankings, correct? I don't remember him being in there. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it checks out.
I'm excited for conferences in 2 weeks, because that's where we'll get like people's true peak of what they can do.
Yeah, we haven't seen Williams since the end of January.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. Who's missing? USC. Stewart, right?
Yeah.
Brendan Stewart.
I took him out because he hasn't done much or anything, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like by now you should have at least put. Basically, the only people who are now eligible to be ranked in my rankings are people who have put together a top 30 performance so far this year. Except for Charles Hicks. I mean, exception for Charles Hicks because he's really good.
Fair.
But other than that, you had to give me at least one top 30 performance to be ranked.
Except Charles Hicks. That's the rule.
Except Charles Hicks. I was like, give him one.
Women's 60.
Charles Hicks, he ran like that 3K where I thought he was going to win, and he runs 750 something. And we're like, oh, Charles, what's going on? He's kind of a little bit of a hangover from cross and Eurocross and all that stuff. But then he comes back a few weeks later and he ran like a 13:20 5K in Chicago. So you're like, all right, so clearly he's fine.
Women's 60, you got Julian Alfred number 1. I agree with that. Bold.
It is bold.
I like it.
What about what do you think of my you're gonna hate my 400. Look at the 400 rankings. Scroll down and show the 400 rankings.
Yeah, those are off.
4.
Yeah, that's stupid. But you have to have at least one that doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, they wouldn't be your rankings. So I'll read them to people who aren't looking. He's got Rosie Effiong, Talitha Diggs, Kennedy Simon, and Rashida Adeleke 4, despite the fact that Adeleke ran the number 3 time in collegiate history and obviously his season's best, and beat Simon, her teammate, head-to-head by about 0.7 of a second. But she's 4th. So if Gordon ever offers to bet you guys, take the bets.
So
that's my advice.
For the record, that ranking will change most likely after Big 12s. But how many times has Adeleke run a championship 400?
A championship 400. She made it in the 2 outdoors last year.
How many times has
Indo-
she run a championship 400 at either conferences or oh, okay. The last time she's run a
that's really
championship style 400 was
you're kind of stretching.
2021 Big 12 indoors. She's
What
run
is a what is a championship style 400, and how does it differ from a non-championship style 400? The gun goes off, you run
rounds.
2 laps. It's the same. She's
Rounds.
fine. She ran rounds in the 2. She ran rounds in the 60.
Rounds in the 2
She's
is different from
fine.
rounds in the 4. I'm just saying, like, there is something about like Talitha Diggs. She knows how to do the 400. I'm just saying, indoor
I think
400
she
is
knows.
weird with like the break. A thing Mo was the best 400-meter runner, and then she got second. Like that happens. Indoor 400 is weird. I think there's a situation where her inexperience of running consistent 400s could come back to haunt her.
But this is our debate of rankings versus picks and projections. The ranking is different than a pick. A ranking is different from how you think the championship race is going to go. So, because what you're talking about is strategy in the big race, that's different. Someone can be a deserving number one, but then you think because of this factor or that factor that they're not going to win. I mean, she should be number one. I don't think that it'd be
Well,
one thing
no,
if she
because
had
if
never
she
run.
should be number one, and all I should do is just take the descending order list and put it on like rankings, done. That's stupid.
No, it's not just
Just
that.
because you have
It's
the fastest
number.
time in the country doesn't mean you're ranked number one. That's
Well, your point about because she doesn't have any championship experience in a 400 is an overly specific point that I don't think will have any bearing on the outcome. Especially, it'd be one thing if she'd never like she's a freshman and had never run it at all in a championship setting, but she's run big races all over the place. Just hasn't happened to do it as often as other people in a 400. So
I
yeah, I
think that
think you're way
matters.
off. No, I don't
Yeah,
think that matters.
I don't think
I
she'll be
don't
ranked
think
fourth going into it. She's probably going to move up to maybe second or third. She may even move up to one. You may guilt me, but it's going to be hard for me to bump her above at least Talitha Diggs. To be honest, it's going to be like you think that she should be ranked higher than Talitha Diggs. Come on.
um
Come on.
AJT says she switched to the 400 right before Worlds last year, finished ahead of Talitha, then got fifth at Europeans. Yeah, yeah, she beat Talitha Diggs at Worlds.
I'm not looking. I guess I didn't. I'm not looking at her international career. I'm just looking at
Yeah,
her NCAA
so maybe
career.
they don't run rounds at the World Championships, so it's okay. Don't worry about
You know what? Whoever pointed that out, that really ruined my
it.
analysis of that ranking. I'm not gonna
Change it
lie.
now.
I
Change it
got a
now.
little
Go
bit
ahead
of
and
egg
change
on
it.
my face, but it's
Change it now.
okay. I'll keep the egg on my face for a week and a half, and I'll update it after Big 12s. Yeah, now that I think about it, she shouldn't be ranked fourth. She should be ranked a little bit higher.
A little bit. I got an idea. First, um, let's see. I'm looking at this. Yeah, I mean, she made semis at
As a,
she made semis.
as a,
She's made semis at Worlds, and then she made the finals at
oh man, this
Europeans.
is bad. This is a bad look, Gordon. This is a bad look. This is a bad look. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. She's going to be ranked higher next week. I promise you that. I apologize to all the
He's talking
like
about
the
Gordon's here talking about does she have enough Big 12 indoor experience? And the chat's like, what about World Championships?
that is a good experience to have. Yeah, I mean,
She hasn't run enough conference meets, guys. That's why Gordon has her ranked low. Do you know? But here's the thing. You know the hint.
it is
Knowing that
interesting
she was
though.
probably
She was
good.
primarily a 200-meter runner most of her career, and now all of a sudden did a quick switch to the 4. And so I was like
Yeah.
looking at that and be like, I would rather go with the person who's run the 4 more often. It's dumb. I'm sorry. I'm trying, guys. I'm trying to rank 18 events. It gets hard. You know, how many people even know who
You needed to do your research.
Leah Phillips of
So,
LSU is? I do. I ranked her 8th in the 60 hurdles.
great job. But here's the hint to knowing that she was good. She ran the third fastest time in NCAA history a couple weeks ago. You should work backwards from that. You're like, oh, okay.
No, hold on. All-time marks though, not time trial, but like just because you run one fast time, it's
I know, but
Sometimes
that should
fool's
give you the
gold.
hint. That should give you the hint, and then you go and you like do the research, and you're like, oh wow, World Championships, European Championships. Not how many times did you run a Big 12s?
You're
I've never
right.
seen
All
you
right, I'm
backtrack
wrong.
that quickly. This
I'm
is New
wrong. I'm wrong.
Gordon.
I'm
New
wrong.
Gordon just who? Wait, hold on. Who was this? Yeah, AJT in the chat. You want me to read the whole progression here? He went Gordon dot dot dot. Then the next message, she switched to the 400 right before Worlds. Blah 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 blah. And then the final comment from AJT: you have no point here. and then
He has a
then they
point
just
to
moved.
me not having a point. He has a point to me not having a point. I'll give him
And then
that.
and then they just moved on. And the next comment was, when is indoor NCAAs? Just totally gave up on convincing you. Thursday
That's all
morning
right.
show. Gotta love it. All right, that's it. Thanks to Colt for producing. You got anything else? Are you
Um,
are you regretting
DMRs
talking
are
about
this
rankings
weekend.
now?
DMRs are this weekend, so that'll be fun. There's one going on in Arkansas. There's ones going on at JDL. There's ones going on at Notre Dame. Washington is taking advantage of the fact that they have so much depth that they're running 2 DMR teams because they can take like a 353 miler and use them as a rabbit for the 1200, which is insane. The amount of because in Arkansas, basically the men's race is going to be rabbited by a bunch of 353, 355 milers, and the women's race is going to be rabbited by Diljeet's pro team, Taylor Made Elite. So I like Courtney Wayment or whoever will rabbit the women's race. So if you're in Arkansas, you chose a good meet to be at to get some good.
The whole
rabbits,
thing, or just the 1200?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if they could run the whole thing or they could just drop out after 1200. But I don't know.
They need a lot of people. Say, hey, who wants to run the quarter? All right, that'd be really hard to do because then say you're just trying to like stay rabbit distance ahead during a relay. It'd be really hard not to do it.
It's really just about the 1200 and the 1200 going.
But imagine though if you could get somebody rabbit in the mile.
Do you know how you do that?
How much faster they go? You need a pro team.
You do that by you have the 1200 leg rabbit the first 800, and then they run extremely slow, right?
You can't do that.
Get lapped.
Yeah,
get lapped, and then they hang it to the 400 person. That person gets lapped, and then you have the 800 leg get the baton when the real teams are getting their mile leg going, and then you have this 800 meter runner rabbit 800 meters of the mile leg because they've been lapped a bunch of legs.
Too many shenanigans. I think people will blow the whistle on that. I just think you got to get a pro. You got to get a pro squad out there.
Is it possible for a lapped runner to rabbit? Is that illegal?
I think that's against. I think that's illegal. I know high school in a lot of different states would be illegal, but no, you get a pro squad out there. You just got to get. A lot of these groups don't have anybody who's jumping, up to volunteering to run a quarter, but
yeah, you
could get a group that could do it. Do they want to do it for a college team? Probably not. But I just think you're right about the 1200. That's everybody wants to get off to the good start, but running the mile by yourself is tough. So having someone out there to pull you along. But NCAA is so deep now with talent, there theoretically should be a bunch of people who will be together, and then you could chase if they're willing to go for it and not just sit around and do miler stuff.
I'm hopping on hopping on a plane tomorrow to Albuquerque. I'll be getting all the interviews. We'll be back on. So check the website for interviews from USA's. There's a bunch of live events going on this weekend as well on FloTrack. I think though, maybe has this event happened yet? Ooh, it might have happened. We might have breaking news. Oh no, we don't have it. Well, right now, if you're listening, go to FloTrack, go and click on the Rad Collegiate Last Chance Meet. RADD Collegiate Last Chance Meet. Stephen Gardner is running a 300.
It's exciting.
That's exciting.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what he does this year. Hurt last year. I want to see what he does. Him versus Norman. Be really exciting. They both run the quarter this year. All right. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. Thanks everybody for listening, particularly those who pointed out Gordon being wrong. Thanks to Colt for producing. Have a great weekend, everyone. We will see you on Monday.
Like and subscribe.